You want to sound?
Hello and welcome to the first ever broadcast of the TD Show. I'm TJ Morgan.
I'm Daniel Bragg.
Today on the show we talk NFL Wildcard Weekend, BCS National Title Game, UK and Western Basketball, Metcalfe County Hornets and Lady Hornets, as well as wintertime fishing. You know, Daniel, the Dan Patrick Show started in Dan's attic. Ours has started in my kitchen. We can only hope for the same success.
Be sure you follow us on Twitter at the TD Show, the TD Show at Twitter, or on Facebook at facebook.com/the TD Show, TD Show, all letters. Also, you can email the show at tdshow, that's a capital T, capital D, capital S, show at outlook.com. If you're unable to listen to us live, you can watch us later on YouTube at youtube.com/user/MedcalfTD Show. That's Medcalf TD Show. And also, be sure to vote on our Facebook poll. Which team is most likely to finish over 500 next year? Houston with a 2-14 record, St. Louis with a 7-9 record, Atlanta with a 4-12 record, or Tampa Bay with a 4-12 record. You know, the big thing on everybody's mind this weekend, NFL football. Wild Card Week is here, most unpredictable week of the year if you're an NFL fan. Some of the most exciting games of the playoffs. It's win or go home for everyone involved.
All right, and the first game of the weekend is going to be 11-5 Kansas City at 11-5 Indianapolis. It's got a 3:35 local time kickoff. And looks like Indy opened up at a 2.5 spread. How do you see this game going?
My gut wants me to go with Kansas City. They're at home, but you look at the numbers, and it don't make sense to go with Indy. So I'm going to go with Kansas City. On the road, in the dome, going to be nice weather. Not going to have to deal with 10 feet of snow like everyone else playing this weekend. You look at some numbers here that might shed a little light on the situation. Kansas City is 6th in the league in scoring. They score 26.9 points a game. That surprised me. You know, you think about their defense, you don't think about how many points they're putting up. They're putting up 26.9 points a game. That's almost 4 touchdowns every single game they play, and they're only giving up 19.1 points a game. That's also 6th in the league in points against. Now, they do give up a lot of yards. They've given up 5,885 yards this year. Their defense lets you run the ball, lets you move it around, but they will shut you down in the red zone. They don't let you score touchdowns. They make you settle for field goals. They can rush the passer. They can get to Andrew Luck. They've got 41 sacks on the year. Indy, on the other hand, is only scoring 24 points a game, which is slightly over what Kansas City generally allows, but less than they score. So if we go on averages, Kansas City should be able to put more points on the board and stop them. Of course, Indy is also only giving up 21.1 points a game, which if it turns into a defensive battle, that's more points than Kansas City has been giving up all year. They're rated 14th in the NFL in both of those categories. So I'm going to go with Kansas City solely based on the numbers.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Week 15, Indy traveled to Kansas City and beat them 23-7. The second reason you're wrong is Andrew Luck. The third reason you're wrong is Kansas City is 1-5 against playoff teams, 10-0 against the rest of the league. I'm pretty sure they'll be playing a playoff team Saturday. I don't like their odds. I'm going to take Indianapolis to cover. Second game of the day, 11-5 New Orleans at 10-6 Philadelphia. It's got a 7:10 kickoff time, and Philly's favored by 2.5. Who you like in that game?
Philly, all day. Nothing against Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, probably top 5 or 6. Got lots of weapons to throw to. Coached well, got a decent defense behind them occasionally. You know, they've been known to let teams run off and score big points. Nick Foles is one of those people that can score big points on any defense. Nick Foles is turning his team around. It looks completely different under him. That Chip Kelly offense is something that if I looked at Nick Foles and thought he's going to run a Chip Kelly wide open offense, I wouldn't have thought it would work, but watching him do it, it's worked pretty well. big kicker for me, something I normally don't like to hear about because I'm a Broncos fan and people throw this at Peyton all the time. It's going to be cold. I mean, it's going to be freezing cold, wind blowing. I know here in Kentucky we're going to get 4 inches of snow. So in the Northeast, they're looking at a foot and a half. It's going to be wild. It's going to be nasty. That fast-paced offense, I think, will win out in this game. I don't think that Drew Brees will be able to keep up with them in these nasty conditions coming out of a nice, warm bowl dome game there at home.
Well, one reason you could possibly be wrong is Philly ranks last in opponent passing yards, and that guy playing quarterback for New Orleans is pretty good. Drew Brees. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him.
Pretty good.
But I'm going to agree with you, and here's why. New Orleans, 3-5 on the road this year. Lost at New England, New York, St. Louis, and Carolina, the last 2 late in the season. What does that have in common with Philly? Well, it was cold, like you said. In Philadelphia, the high today, 30 degrees. So, Philly's won 7 of their last 8. I see them taking this one too. So moving ahead tomorrow, we got San Diego 9-7 at Cincinnati 11-5. It's got a 12:05 kickoff time, and Cincy's favored by a touchdown in this matchup. What are you thinking on this game?
I've been on the Chargers all year. They let me down a few times. I like Phillip Rivers. I think he's grown up a lot the past few years. He's known to make some mistakes, pretty costly mistakes occasionally, but I like the Chargers team. I like the versatility that they can throw at Cincinnati. We know Cincinnati has an awesome defense, but they've got some people hurt. They're not going to be the Cincinnati of 100% that we saw most of the year. I like Danny Woodhead coming out of the backfield and the slot receiver, kind of set up, running a little Wes Welker crossing routes through the middle. Can also run the ball out of the backfield, creates great matchup problems, especially for a lacking Cincinnati secondary. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. I think it'll be a good game. I think it's going to be the game of the weekend to watch. But I think the Chargers are going to win this one in a close game, probably 6-point game.
While Vegas thinks this will be the most lopsided game of the weekend, I agree with you. I think it'll probably be the closest game. You've got San Diego, who we've learned over the past decade, always starts terribly and then gets hot late. Then you got Cincinnati, who just at times looks like the best team in the league. Their offense looks amazing, especially A.J. Green. But then when it gets to a big game, they let you down. San Diego's won 4 straight, including that Thursday night win at Denver, which was a big win. And San Diego actually has the most wins versus playoff teams. They're 5-2. However, since he's won 5 of their last 6, they went 8-0 at home, and they're 4-0 against playoff teams. So I'm probably going to take Cincinnati in this one. However, I don't think they'll cover. I like San Diego on the bet.
Oh, another thing. San Diego's got a little bit of swagger about him. They're coming in hot. Cincy started off hot. Started off that swagger. You hit Cincy in the mouth a couple times, and they turned to a completely different ball.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers, he's a little bit of a cowboy quarterback. I like Phillip Rivers. He'll rock the snakeskin cowboy boots and the bolo tie. You got to appreciate a quarterback that can do that. Last game of the weekend, 12-4 San Francisco at 8-7-1 Green Bay. And San Fran's favored by 3 points in this one. Where are you leaning on this one?
I don't know. I've never been a Kaepernick fan. Never been up on Colin Kaepernick. I like the way that San Diego plays the ball. I like how they run it in your face. I like how they play defense. I like their coaching staff. But if you're telling me that I've got Colin Kaepernick coming into negative 17 degrees, could be the coldest game ever. Now, we're going to be colder than the Ice Bowl up there. Could be the coldest game ever. Colin Kaepernick against one of the greatest quarterback in the past couple seasons, at least if you play fantasy football, and obviously a very, very good, very talented quarterback who's got something to prove, fresh off an injury, and Aaron Rodgers. If his line can keep him protected, I'm going with Green Bay in this one. I think it's going to be opposing to their styles and be kind of a low-scoring game, but I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers over the San Francisco 49ers. Even though San Francisco 49ers have a great season, I think the run ends tomorrow night.
I don't think you could be more wrong. I think San Francisco wins big. I think they cover. I think they win by 2 or more touchdowns. They had a couple blowout losses early against Seattle and Indy, but they finished the season 11-2 with a 1-point loss to Carolina and a 3-point loss at New Orleans. While they're only 2-4 against playoff teams, I think they take this game big time. I like them a lot. I think they remind me a lot of 2 years ago Green Bay and last year's Baltimore. Really hot coming into the playoffs. They stay in every game, even when they struggle. If the defense is struggling, the offense can pick them up. If the offense is struggling, the defense can pick them up. Just an all-around good team.
I see where you're coming with that. I don't see the comparison there between Green Bay of 2 years ago or the Ravens of last year in just the way they play the game. Completely different styles of play, but that could be advantageous to the 49ers. Things get nasty, things break down. Kaepernick will find openings. I don't think he's going to be able to throw it downfield anywhere, but he might get his yards. I can see your points there. I'm still sticking with Green Bay at home.
All right. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about a team that didn't make the playoffs that was very, very close. And
as usual. 3 or 4 years in a row, we've had this situation come down.
I'd like to talk about the Dallas Cowboys' problems and the tale of the two Romos. And we have a guest in with us today, Reed from Randolph. Reed, how are you doing today?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me in.
So what are your feelings on the Cowboys and Tony Romo?
Well, the Cowboys' problems, in my opinion, stem a lot deeper than their quarterback situation.
Okay.
It starts at the top with Jerry Jones. He's a different breed. In my opinion, all the man cares about is staying in the media. As long as the media is talking about, his team and what's going on in Big D, then I think he's content with whatever's going on. Another big problem I see with the Cowboys is we all know the defense is just atrocious, terrible.
Defense is bad.
The worst probably ever. We thought it was bad as a Cowboys fan. We thought it was bad last year when we had Rob Ryan, and it was.
Y'all were tough on Rob Ryan. We got rid of him.
Very tough.
Falls off the sideline.
Very tough on Rob Ryan, and I'm sure if Jerry Jones would have knew how bad his defense would have been this year, I'm sure he probably would have held on to Rob Ryan. It's not good at all. Good at all.
You think you need a new GM? You think that would help matters in Dallas?
It couldn't hurt if he would, and he's not going to do this, but I mean, if he would step down as GM and get somebody in there that knew a little more about the game, maybe, and just focused on just writing and cutting checks, that couldn't hurt matters in Dallas.
They say Jason Garrett's job is safe. Do you think he deserves another year with the Cowboys?
No, I do not.
You think they should let him go and go after somebody else?
I agree. Yes, that's what I think. He's been the coach of the Cowboys for, I think it's 3.5 years now. He took over for Wade Phillips in the middle of the year, and he's been 8-8 every year.
You look at it. He gets kind of a pass because Romo wasn't playing. But what do we see in their last game? Exact same meltdown that we would have seen with Romo.
Maybe it's just a contagious thing. If you're the quarterback of Dallas, you have to throw an interception on the last drive of a game that you're winning or tied in.
But here's the thing, though. The rest of your team has got to put you in a position where every single game you're not having to make a magical play.
Right.
Now, Romo is a guy that has skills. He can make those plays, but you put the best quarterbacks ever, you put Peyton Manning, you put Tom Brady out there and tell them they have to make a game-winning play every single game, and that's a 50-50 shot every time.
Exactly.
I want to give a little breakdown on Tony Romo.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback.
That's T.O. talking about his former quarterback, Tony Romo. I'm sure John feels the same way over here when we start talking about him. But I want to give the tale of the two Romos, the good Tony Romo and the bad Tony Romo. This is the good. Tony Romo, since becoming a starter in 2006, has 19 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter. That's tied for fifth most. He has the third best QB rating in that time, only behind Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning. And if you take the first 12 minutes, the first 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, he is second only to Peyton Manning since 2006. But when we get to the last 3 minutes, his QBR, his quarterback rating, drops from 80 and is cut in half to 40. In the last 3 minutes, he has the most interceptions of any quarterback in the league since 2006, with 8.
I see you. I see what you're saying there. I see the problems where games on the line, last few minutes, Romo tends to come apart. But I mean, think about it. Every single day when you go to work, no matter what you do, you clock out at 4 o'clock and at 3:50 you've got to get something done or you're going to get fired. Eventually, that stress is going to wear you down. As long as Dallas wants to build a team around Tony Romo, and they obviously do, they gave him a big contract, got lots of money. You're going to have to put something in there to keep the games from being last-second shootouts every single time. Put a defense in place that's going to stop people. He's got weapons. Get him a line. Focus on the trenches where you need it. Jerry Jones wants to stay in the media. He wants to stay out in front of people. That's fine with me. Do your radio show every week. Get your quarterback some help.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. There's been a couple games this year that they've had big leads. The Green Bay game was the game to me that just told it all. I mean, they were up 26-3 at halftime, and they end up losing the game. I know in the second half, and this might be a little bit on Romo too. I'm not exactly how they operate things, but they ran the ball 7 times in the second half with a 23-point lead.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat any teams when you're doing that.
I believe Jason Garrett kind of threw him under the bus on that though, and said, we call running plays, and he audible.
Well, he did say that about his last interception. Yes, I don't know about the whole second half, but the last pick he threw, I believe he was trying to get to Cole Beasley in the flat, and of course we all know the Romo play, the interception. But
I'm going to defend Romo here a little bit and make a comparison to Peyton Manning. If y'all can remember back to last year when the Broncos were playing the Ravens in the playoffs, Peyton Manning threw an interception on the nearly last drive in overtime that got intercepted. But, I mean, the pressure was on him, right? But you can't blame him for that because you had 2 blown coverage plays before that allowed the Ravens to come back and tie the game. So you can't necessarily blame your quarterback solely for losses.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
I think a lot of this problem, I'm harping on it, I'm going to keep saying it, culture in Dallas. Jason Garrett's in there. They said he's staying, but he's had that lamed up feel the entire time he's there. It's always felt like it doesn't matter what Jason Garrett does. It's what Jerry Jones thinks looks good on TV.
Right.
Now, Jason Garrett can call his plays, and Tony Romo knows Jerry Jones has got his back. If he wants to audible off, there's got to be some kind of meeting where you get a leadership in there that's going to say, look, this is our game plan. We're going to stick to it, or we're going to set you down. We know they had Kyle Orton there, and he did all right. If it means setting down your franchise quarterback for a couple plays to prove a point, we've got to change the culture. What is going on there? Most popular, most beloved team in sports in all the United States is mediocre. They've been mediocre.
8-8 the past 3 years.
8-8
no playoffs.
I'm not sure on the exact stat, but I read they're a game or two over 500 since '98, I believe. They finished around
something like that.
Finish right at 500 the past 20 years.
I think they've had one playoff win since they last won the Super Bowl, and that was in 94, 95. I can't really remember.
All right. Well, we thank you for joining us today, John.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Now, if we could, something you mentioned earlier, Peyton Manning in cold weather. I'd like to talk a little bit about Peyton and the Denver chances in the playoffs.
Before we go there, I'd like to give a little shout out. I know we got Trey Shirley showing up on Twitter saying he's listening to us. We appreciate your love. Once again, if you want to leave us a comment or a question for us to talk about, you can hit us at Twitter, at TD Show at Twitter, or at Facebook.com/TD Show. So thanks for listening to us, and
we appreciate that.
Questions.
Something you touched on, Peyton Manning in cold weather. Here's the stat for you. When it's 40 degrees or below in his career, he's 10-10. 20 games, he's won 10, lost 10. and had 32 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. But I would say of those 20 games, all but 2 were on the road, and 4 of them were at New England in their prime. So you tell me what quarterback is going to go on the road, 4 of them at New England, and finish better than 10-10?
I agree with you there. You take out those four New England games, and he's 10-6, and that looks good. I don't know what it is. Peyton Manning. I know the NFL does the scheduling at the beginning of the year, but Peyton Manning gets stuck going to New England late in the year when it's cold. It seems like every single year. I don't know.
And when he was at Indy, I mean, it was him. I mean, there wasn't no defense there. It was him outscoring the other team.
Yeah, him and Marvin Harris said if he could throw it to him, just reach back and throw it. That was pretty much his only options. He had Reggie Wayne. He had weapons to throw to. That was their game. How many yards can Peyton Manning throw it? We don't have to stop anybody. We don't have to pound the clock. We have to outscore people. Tom Brady at home, I don't care if he's 20 years old or he's 40 years old, he's hard to outscore.
And even if he doesn't have a receiver on his team that you've ever heard of. You and Reed go out there and play receiver, and he'll have 3 touchdowns, 250 yards.
They're going to have to get me some stick 'em if they want me to catch the ball for anybody.
But if we look at his last 8 games under 40 degrees, he has a 72% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, averaging 26.5 points per game. That's pretty good. I mean, that should win you ball games.
Another thing we don't. I mean, you look at this as cold weather, but when you think about these games that Peyton Manning are playing, when is he playing these freezing cold games? End of the year, especially at Indy. When it got towards the end of the year, Peyton Manning would play a quarter. He might play a half. He might not play at all in these freezing cold games if they didn't mean anything. I know a few times they would come into Denver back when Peyton Manning was younger and in his prime, and he would play the first half and then sit down, and so it didn't really matter to him. It might be advantageous for them to let Denver win a game against them and knock someone else out of the playoffs and rather do that. So there's a lot of stats that don't necessarily tell the whole story there.
I'm going to give you some stats that do tell the whole story, though. I'm going to give you about 6 stats here that tell you that Peyton Manning is the best quarterback of all time. He has the most passing yards in a season, did that this year, 5,477. Most touchdown passes in a season, did that this year, 55, breaking Tom Brady's record, who broke his record. He has the most regular and postseason games with at least 300 passing yards, 92. He has 92 games where he has thrown for 300 yards. And this, I think, is the biggest stat. A lot of people point to Brett Favre as the all-time quarterback, talking about how many touchdown passes he has. But he also leads the league in interceptions, and those aren't good. Peyton Manning has the largest career touchdown to interception differential, 272. He's thrown 272 more touchdown passes than interceptions, and that is impressive.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Peyton Manning's stats. When we make this argument, a lot of people are going to say, how many Super Bowls has he won? This is what I'm saying to you. I love Peyton Manning. I liked Peyton Manning when he was even at the Colts and kicked my Broncos out of the playoffs about 3 years in a row. I still liked him. I thought he was a good quarterback. What people don't understand is we're talking about the position of quarterback. We're not saying he is the greatest team leader of all time. We're not saying he's the most championship-ready player of all time. We're saying he's the best player at his position that has ever been. Now you can have the best player at any position and not win Super Bowls. It's pretty easy to make the argument that Megatron is the best receiver right now in the game. Lions are not going to win Super Bowl. That's 100% fact.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go with Super Bowls, are you going to say his brother, who threw 18 touchdowns and 27 interceptions this year and had a 58.5% completion percentage, is better than him because he has 2 Super Bowls and Peyton has 1? I mean, I don't think anybody can make that argument.
I'm with you here. I mean, you look at the great, Mount Rushmore of great quarterbacks. Just think about it. Go back and think about maybe the last 40 or 50 years. Great quarterbacks. Not many of them have a whole heck of a lot of Super Bowls. You don't have a great quarterback statistically on a lot of minus Tom Brady.
I mean, Tom Brady,
Belichick and Tom Brady out of this equation.
Tom Brady's going to be the only person that anybody can make an argument that he's better, and the argument's going to be based solely on Super Bowl
wins. That's right. I mean, look at Dan Marino. Look at John Elway. Look at all these great quarterbacks. Steve Young had his run there. They won some Super Bowls, but nobody's going to have 7, 8, 9 Super Bowls.
And I mean, look at Tom Brady since that defense has degraded. I mean, he's not the Tom Brady and the New England Patriots that they were when they were winning 5 rings.
Yeah, he's still throwing, still having the stats up there next to Peyton's numbers, but he doesn't have that defense around him. You can't say, well, he's not a good quarterback anymore. He doesn't have a good defense. He's still just as good a quarterback. They're not winning the Super Bowls they used to. I think this kind of, even the thought that New England was some great power is inflated a little bit. They were good. They did have a run there. But, I mean, if you look at a 10-year span, they've always been in the mix. But they haven't been that much better than other teams in a 10-year run.
All right, getting a little bit more specific to right now, talking about the Broncos' playoff chances. Just want to throw these stats at you. The Denver defense is 27th in pass defense and 22nd in scoring defense. They've only held 3 teams under 20 points, and 2 of those was the last 2 weeks of the season. As much as I like Peyton Manning and as much as I like the Denver Broncos, I really think they're going to struggle in the playoffs solely based on their defense because the other team gets ahead. They know Peyton's throwing. They can base their coverage on that. It's going to be hard.
Oh yeah. Also, if you look at the first 7 games of the year, and then you look at the next 7 games of the year, you saw Von Miller come back. You saw the impact he had all in that defensive front. He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there for the playoffs. Not going to be there for the rest of the year. They still have They have all kinds of talent on defense, but they've got a little bit of a mindset of we're going to outscore whoever we play. They're going to have to tighten down, play tighter coverages, and try and limit the scoring. You know, I think if they can keep teams under 21, Peyton's going to outscore them. That offense. When they start letting teams score 30, 35, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, you can only let teams score 50 points and hope their quarterback throws a last possession interception to lose the game once a year, I think. But I just got a text from a viewer that said, don't blame the New England Super Bowls just on their defense. Don't forget about Spygate either. That might have helped them a little bit in their 5 Super Bowl run.
Yeah, we know that they've been accused of things like that this year. I don't know what kind of truth there is to it, but Bill Belichick's always got some trick up his sleeve.
Something I'd like to touch on real fast before the break is the New York Jets, Rex Ryan, and Geno Smith. It's been rumored that Rex Ryan is safe again, and you were talking about Jason Garrett and that lame duck feeling of him since he's been at Dallas, and you have a lot of that with Rex Ryan at the Jets too.
Yeah, Rex Ryan's a character. I don't know what truth there is to it. Been reports that he's came in and told his team he wouldn't be back next year, and then they decided they'd honor his contract and leave him there. Who knows? Who knows if he makes it through next year? I never know what to expect out of Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan could show up at this house right now to be on our radio show and chew us out for what we're saying.
And he would drop a couple F-bombs too. I guarantee you that. He wouldn't hold back. Here's the thing. Rex Ryan and the New York Jets remind me a lot of the Dallas Cowboys. They're 42-38 in the regular season with him as the coach. They're 4-2 in postseason. But I'm not in favor of anybody losing their job, man. I don't know that somebody else can come in and make this team any better than Rex Ryan can. And that's the thing. When you let a guy go, you want to know that you can get somebody that's going to make your team better. And I just don't know that that's out there for the Jets with what they have.
Yeah, and you want to know, you want to see what someone can do in 5 years. You know, you look at things, and there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do in 1 year. You can come in and call plays a little differently, but you're not going to turn a culture around, not going to turn a team around, not going to get the personnel you need in there to redo the whole game plan for that organization in 1, 2, 3 years. You know, that it's knee-jerk reactions that we have that lead us to this great turnover. I think in the past 13 years, I think there have been 133 if anybody was listening that knows that, I think there's been 133 different coaches in the NFL in the past 13 years. That's a lot.
That is a lot. But we're going up against a break here, so we're going to have to take a small break, about a 5-minute break, and we'll be back. What you need to do if you're listening to us, this link's going to go down. You just need to refresh your browser in about 5 minutes, and there'll be a new link come back up, and you can listen to us there. Thank you very much for listening to the TD Show.